police are investigating what they believe was a murder-suicide in Johns Creek. Authorities say a teenager called 911 late Sunday night asking for help as a fight between his parents escalated. 11 Alive's Grace King spoke with police about where their investigation stands.
Just before 11:30 Sunday night, police got a call from a teenager inside this home on North Hillbrook Trace, asking police to come as a fight between their parents escalated to gunfire.
The 911 dispatcher officers had told the juveniles to go ahead and vacate the home, which they did, so they were outside the home upon officers' arrival. Our indicators, searching through our call history here, we have never had contact with those two individuals. We've never had a call to that residence before.
He says the department is doing what they can to support the kids and those affected.
Our hearts and prayers go out to those family members and friends of those, and especially the young male juveniles.
It is a little before midnight in Johns Creek, Georgia, the kind of suburb people save up to move into. Quiet streets, big homes set back from the road, porch lights glowing soft against the dark. On a street like this, late at night, the silence usually means everybody is safe. Families asleep, doors locked, nothing to fear. But inside one of those homes, a 17-year-old boy is on the phone with 911. His voice is holding steady, but the words coming out of his mouth are not the kind any child should ever have to say out loud. His parents had been fighting. And then came the gunshots. By the time officers reached the front door, 2 people were dead, 3 boys were standing outside in the dark, and a family that looked ordinary from the street had just come apart for good. This is the story of Martha Holladay, and it is the story of the night her 3 sons lost everything. Before we get into it, go ahead and follow the channel, because these are the kinds of stories that deserve to be told with care. Let me tell you something about the woman at the center of this. Her name was Martha Holladay, 43 years old, a wife and a mother of 3 boys she loved with everything she had. The people who knew her did not describe her the way you describe a stranger. They described her as warm, as a woman of deep faith, as somebody who could walk into a room and make every single person in it feel like they mattered. Martha worked with the business community in the North Fulton area, just north of Atlanta. She produced events. She brought people together. She made members feel happy, feel connected, feel like somebody finally saw them. That was her gift. She poured into people over and over, and she never seemed to keep score. And when the news of her death got out, you could feel how much she meant. One friend wrote, "You didn't deserve this. Your boys didn't deserve this. You were a light in any room, a kind and beautiful woman." Another said, "Martha Holladay was an amazingly kind and godly woman. She could make you smile on the worst days." Read those words again. A light in any room. She could make you smile on the worst days. That is not how you describe a name in a headline. That is how you describe somebody who is loved. So, before we go any further, let's be clear on one thing. Martha was a whole person, with a whole life of her own. The way she died is not the sum of who she was. She left a real hole when she was gone, and the people who loved her felt it the moment they heard. Martha shared her home with her husband, Richard Holladay. He was 52. Together they were raising their 3 sons. The oldest was 17. The middle boy was 13. The youngest was just 12. From the outside, it looked like an ordinary family in an ordinary suburb. And Johns Creek is the kind of place people choose on purpose. Good schools, safe streets, quiet nights. It sits north of Atlanta, the sort of community where families move specifically because they want to feel secure. The scariest thing on most evenings is somebody's dog getting loose or a package showing up late. And here is something the police made a point of saying afterward. There was no record of trouble at that house. No history of domestic violence calls, no prior visits, nothing on paper that would have told a neighbor or a coworker or a teacher at the boys' school that anything was wrong inside. Now, I want to slow down here because this part matters. No record does not mean no pain. It does not mean there were never hard days or hard years. We do not know what life looked like inside that home, day to day, and I am not going to sit here and act like I do. Anybody who fills in those blanks for you is guessing, and guessing about real people is how rumors get started. All we can stand on is what has actually been confirmed, and what was confirmed is heavy enough on its own. Because here is the thing about a quiet street, it can hide almost anything. A home with no police history can still be a home in pain. A couple who looks fine in public can still be in trouble in private. We will come back to that. For now, just hold on to it. It was a Sunday night, the kind of night that closes out a weekend and rolls you into another week. Across the neighborhood, porch lights were clicking off. People were settling in. Kids were laying out clothes for Monday, finishing homework, scrolling their phones, doing all the small ordinary things that fill the last hour of a normal day. Inside the Holladay home, something went wrong. Police say there was an argument between Martha and Richard. They have not said what it was about, and I am not about to invent a reason for you. What investigators have said is that the argument did not stay an argument. At some point that night it turned. And it turned into gunfire, and the three boys were home for all of it. Think about that for a second. 3 children, in the place that was supposed to be the safest place in the world to them, hearing the worst thing they will ever hear. And it was one of them, the oldest, 17 years old, who did the only thing he could think to do. He picked up a phone. He dialed those 3 numbers, and he tried to bring help to a house that had already changed forever. A major with the Johns Creek police later described that call plainly. We got a call from inside a residence from one of the 3 juveniles that were inside, and the officers responded to what they believed to be a domestic dispute. Now, sit with what that call actually is. A 911 dispatcher's whole job is to stay calm while somebody else is living the worst moment of their life. They ask questions. Where are you? What happened? Is anyone hurt? Is the person with the weapon still there? Can you get somewhere safe? Can you stay on the line with me? Those questions are hard enough for a grown adult. Now put them on a teenager, a kid who, an hour earlier, was probably just sitting in his room. He has to find words while his body is flooded with fear. He has to think clearly while everything around him is falling apart. He has to be the one to explain, out loud, to a stranger, what just happened to his own parents. No child should ever have to make that call. But he did. And that call is part of why his younger brothers were found and reached and protected. In the middle of the worst night of his life, a 17-year-old kid did something a lot of grown men would freeze and fail to do. I want you to remember him later when this story is over. A domestic dispute. That is how it comes across the radio. That is what the officers are told as they head toward the home on North Hillbrook Trace. But they do not know what is really waiting for them. They do not know if anybody is still alive inside. They do not know if anybody is hurt. They do not know if the person with the gun is still standing, still armed, still a threat. They do not know if there are more victims they have not heard about yet. This is one of the reasons domestic calls are some of the most dangerous calls in police work. The emotions are at their highest. The people involved know each other, share a history, share a home, and a scene can change in a single heartbeat. Officers walk toward those doors, not knowing if they are about to step into the middle of something that is still happening. When they rolled up to the Holladay home, the 3 boys were outside, all 3 of them. Safe, at least in the way that word can mean anything on a night like this. Not physically hurt, but not okay either. There is a difference between those two things, and it is a difference those boys are going to carry for the rest of their lives. If this story is holding you, do me a favor and tap that like button and let me know in the comments where you're watching from. It helps more people find these stories. Now, let's get back to it. The officers went inside, and there, in the home where those 3 boys had been raised, they found Martha and Richard Holladay. Both of them gone. Both from gunshot wounds. I want to be careful and precise here, because precision is the whole job. Police have used very deliberate words about what the early investigation shows. They believe Richard shot and killed Martha, and then took his own life. They have called it an apparent murder-suicide. Listen to that word, apparent. It is doing a lot of work. It means the evidence points in one direction, but the investigation is still open, and detectives are still working to put the full timeline together. The case is not closed. Nobody is closing the book on every question, but based on what authorities have laid out, that is the sequence they believe happened that night. Richard first, then himself, and that is where a case like this turns into something different from most of the stories told on this channel, because there are 3 boys at the center of it, 17, 13, 12. In one night, they lost their mother, they lost their father, they lost the home they knew as home, they lost the version of their family they had woken up with that very morning. That is not one loss. That is everything, all at once, all in the same few minutes. Police said the children were uninjured, and they were placed in the custody of relatives. And I am grateful for that small mercy, that there were people ready to step in, to open their doors, to hold these boys when their whole world had just collapsed. But I want to be clear about something, and I mean this. We are not going to name those boys here. We are not going to guess at what they saw or what they heard. That is theirs, and theirs alone, to carry, and to share one day only if they ever choose to. The kindest thing total strangers on the internet can do is keep these children's names out of the comments, and let the people who love them do the protecting, because the road ahead for them is long. Grief is hard enough on its own, but this kind of grief is layered. They will grieve their mother. They will, in a complicated way, grieve their father too. They will grieve the family they thought they had. And they will have to grow up while a version of this night sits online forever, while strangers discuss it, while the worst moment of their childhood becomes something people search. That is why public compassion is not optional here. It is the bare minimum. Now let's zoom out. Because Martha's story does not sit by itself. I told you to hold on to something earlier, the idea that a quiet street can hide almost anything. Here is where that matters. To be completely clear, we do not know what Martha and Richard's relationship was actually like. We do not know if there were warning signs or fear or none of that at all. I am not going to put a story onto 2 people when the facts have not been established. But step back from this one home, and you start to see a pattern that is bigger than any single family. In this country, more than 1,800 people are killed by an intimate partner every single year. And about half of those killings involve a gun. Researchers who study domestic violence have found something stark and consistent. When an abuser has access to a firearm, a woman's risk of being killed jumps roughly 5 times higher. The gun does not create the danger, but it turns a dangerous situation into a deadly one, fast. And murder-suicides like this one are their own kind of tragedy. They happen more often than most people realize, touching thousands of families across the country. The people who study them will tell you something important and something hopeful. These deaths are often preventable. There are usually risk factors. There are usually moments where somebody could have stepped in if they knew what to look for. That is not me saying anyone failed Martha. I do not know that, and neither do you. It is me saying that these stories are not random lightning strikes. They sit inside something we can actually understand, and sometimes interrupt. A home with no police record can still be unsafe. A person can smile in public and be afraid in private. And fear inside a relationship is not just an argument. It is a thing to take seriously every time. There's something else that makes a case like this so heavy. When the person who did the harm is also gone, the usual path just disappears. There will be no trial, no testimony, no cross-examination, no day in court where Martha's family gets to look the responsible person in the eye and ask the questions that are eating them alive. Why? Why her? Why that night? Why in the same house as the children? Why not walk out the door? Why not call somebody? Why did the last act have to take everything down with it? Investigators can reconstruct what happened, they can document the evidence, they can close the file, but they cannot make the person who caused this answer for it. And so the people left behind, the family, the friends, the 3 boys, are handed something almost impossible. A loss with no apology, and a stack of questions that may never get a clean answer. That silence becomes part of the grief. It is its own kind of weight. Out in the community, the grief moved fast. The business group Martha worked with said it was devastated. In a tribute, they called her a beautiful and talented professional who created and led chamber events with a passion to make our members feel happy and connected. They remembered her as a woman of great faith, deeply empathetic, always pouring into others. And they said they were mourning her and praying for the son she loved with her whole heart. And that is what gets lost when a life becomes a headline. The headline talks about how it ended. The people who actually knew her wanted the world to know who she was. A woman who showed up. A woman who cared. A woman who, by every account, made the people around her better and lighter and less alone. You could see the community pulling close, the way communities do, people sharing memories, people holding her boys up in their thoughts, people refusing to let the violence be the only thing anybody remembers about her. And listen, if any part of this story is hitting close to home for you, I need you to hear me for a minute. If you are scared of somebody you love, or you know somebody who is, you do not have to sit in it alone. In the United States, the National Domestic Violence Hotline is at 1-800-79-972-33. It is free, it is confidential, and it is there around the clock. And if you or somebody you know is struggling or thinking about giving up, you can call or text 988 anytime, day or night, for the Suicide Crisis Lifeline. I want to say one more thing, especially to this community. The data shows Black women are about twice as likely to be killed by an intimate partner. That is not said to scare anybody. It is said because knowing the risk is how you protect the people you love. If your friend, your sister, your cousin, your coworker seems afraid of their partner, do not brush it off. Do not wait. Check on them. Ask the question. Help them find a way out while there is still time. Reaching out is not weakness. It is the bravest move there is. So, here is where we land. 2 people are gone. 3 boys have to grow up now with a hole where their parents used to be, and a whole community is left holding questions that may never get a clean answer. But Martha Holladay should not be remembered for the worst night of her life. She should be remembered for the love she gave, the rooms she lit up, the people she lifted, and the 3 sons she would have done anything for. The violence does not get to be the final word on who she was. The people who loved her are making sure of that, and so are we. So say her name with care, Martha Holladay, a wife, a mother, a friend, a woman of faith who poured into everybody around her. A light in any room. She mattered, she is missed, and she deserved so much more time. If this story moved you, and if you believe these stories should be told with respect for the people in them, go ahead and like this video, subscribe, and turn your notifications on so the next one finds you. When you're done here, there's another case waiting for you, linked right on the screen. And before you go, let me leave you with this. With no prior history, no police calls, nothing on the surface that anyone could point to, do you think the people closest to a family could ever really see something like this coming? Or does it stay hidden until it is too late? Tell me what you think down in the comments. I read them, and I want to hear your take.